Senator Hume.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I rise today to speak on a matter of urgency submitted to this place by a parliamentary colleague from New South Wales, Senator Burston. And in the wake of the saddening revelations of ball tampering by members of the Australian cricket team, Senator Burston wants this place to consider the need to understand why some politicians and professional sportsmen feel the need to cheat. Now, whether intentionally or not, Acting Deputy President Senator Burston's timing is impeccable, because only last week the Victorian Ombudsman, Ms Deborah Glass, OBE, handed down her report into the egregious practices of 21 separate members of the Victorian State Parliament from the Australian Labor Party. And there is no other word for it, Acting Deputy President, as the Ombudsman has made perfectly clear. The Andrews Labor government has cheated its way to electoral victory in 2014. By using taxpayer funds ordinarily used for expenditure on the electorate, 21 state MPs were able to fund an army of campaign coordinators called the Red Shirts. Now, this is deception of the very highest order. It was a scheme devised by the Labor leadership. It was endorsed by the Labor campaign team. It was signed off by Premier Daniel Andrews. More than 1,100 days of work was ascribed. Nearly $400,000 worth of taxpayer money was used. It was specifically designed to use taxpayer funds to subvert the democratic process. Quite frankly, Acting Deputy President, it makes ball tampering look like amateur hour. So let us be clear, Acting Deputy President, exactly who we are talking about. Who is responsible for this rort? Who are the 21 state and Labor MPs involved? Well, I can show you exactly who they are, Acting Deputy President, because they've been named and shamed in the Herald Sun.
Senator Hume, I'm probably one of the last ones to pull you up on this, but you know that you're not allowed to use props. I've been guilty myself, Senator, but you are not to. So you'll have to put the prop down.
I'm terribly sorry.
Senator,
I apologise, Acting Deputy President.
I have no doubt you are, Senator Hume. You have the call.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I apologise. I'm afraid I'm a little bit like Premier Andrews. I didn't know that I was cheating. So let me just name the individual members of parliament that cheated the taxpayer. John Landers. Let's start with John Landers. He's the now retired member for Southern Metropolitan. He was the architect of the scheme. He was the architect of the scheme to defraud the taxpayer. Now, this man was once the Treasurer of Victoria. He was the architect of this scheme. He was rewarded. He was rewarded by the Labor Party for his audacious fleecing of the taxpayer with a $90,000 a year chairmanship of a government-run organisation, a company called VicTrack. Now, he's since resigned from that position, thank heavens for that, because he knows you cannot defend the indefensible. Martin Pakula, the member for Western Metropolitan Region, he is actually the current Attorney-General, the highest lawmaker in the state. And yet he was not only a willing participant in this scheme, he was responsible for the extra $1 million of taxpayer money spent to try to fend off the investigation by the Ombudsman and protect the cover-up. Gavin Jennings, the member of the Southern Metropolitan, he was the Special Minister of State. Now, his job description is supposed to oversee government transparency, integrity and accountability. What a joke. Jenny Makakos, the member for Northern Metropolitan Region and Minister for Families, Children and Youth. She was one of the largest contributors to the scheme. Gail Tierney, member for Western Victoria, the Minister— the irony, the Minister for Corrections. Perhaps she could tell us which correctional facility houses those who have stolen from the taxpayer and subverted the democratic process. John Erin, the member for Lara and the Minister for Tourism, Major Events and Sports. It was his staff member who became the whistleblower in this sorry tale.
Point of order, Senator Gallagher.
My point of order is that Senator Hume may be misleading the Senate by saying that these members of parliament have stolen from the taxpayer. It is clear in the Ombudsman's findings
Senator
that
Gallagher, that is a debating point, as you well know. Senator Hume.
Thank you very much, Acting Deputy President. Lily D'Ambrosio, the member for Mill Park. She was the worst— well, she is the worst Minister for Energy that this state has ever seen. If only she put as much energy into keeping the lights on in Victoria as she did into rorting the 2014 state election. Adam Somyurek, he's my favourite. He's the Minister for Small Business, Innovation and Trade. He may wield a butter knife like nobody else in the parliamentary dining room, but siphons are his weapon of choice when it comes to taxpayer funds. Caesar Melham, former government whip, And the National Secretary of the AWU and, of course, the man behind the clean event payments also referred to authorities by the Hayden Royal Commission. Now, he's no stranger to using other people's money for political gain. So many other members of the Victorian Parliament named in the Ombudsman's report who cannot possibly look their constituents in the eyes: Anthony Carbines, Marsha Thompson, Nazir Al-Asmar, Shane Lian. But these are just the current members of the Victorian Parliament. There were retired members involved too, and they have since been rewarded for their obedience and their silence with very comfortable jobs on the taxpayer teat. Former Dandenong MP John Panzadopoulos, he earns up to $30,000 a year with 3 separate government boards. Retired member for Northern Victoria, Candy Broad. She earns about $51,000 a year as the chair of Prime Safe, a statutory authority for the meat industry. Liz Beattie, former member of Eurokia, receives $20,000 for a board position on the Greater Metropolitan Cemetery Trust. There are other retired members: Brian T, Margaret Lewis, Johan Sheffer, all complain. My favourite, though, is Joe Helper. Let me tell you the story of Joe Helper. He was the former member for Ripon, who used the funds that should have been dedicated to his electorate to fully fund a red shirt campaigner. Her name is Juliana Addison. Well, Miss Addison had the last laugh. She campaigned all right, just not in his electorate of Ripon. And she campaigned for Sharon Knight in Wendouree. Well, poor old Mr Helper lost his seat. He must have been hopping mad. But Miss Addison, she's done okay out of this. She was paid illegally by the taxpayer money, but she is now the ALP's candidate for Wendouree at the upcoming state election. Well, good luck to Miss Addison. Every time you think the Victorian Labor Party has stooped to a new low, they surprise you once more by plumbing a depth previously unthinkable. So where was the ALP campaign team in all of this? Surely the campaign team knew what was going on. Well, let's ask Senator Carr, who was on that campaign team. When he saw the Ombudsman's report, he said it was imprecise, vague and partisan. Imprecise, vague. No, you said partisan.
Senator
you said
Carr.
partisan, Senator Carr.
Senator Carr.
Well, it's not partisan. I read the 200-word report, the 200-page report.
Senator Hume. Senator Carr, if you could show a little bit more restraint, please, because I can't actually hear Senator Hume over your interjections. Senator Hume.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. How extraordinarily unsportsmanlike of Senator Carr. How very typical. Because if you don't like the result of the game, if you don't like the result of the game, you blame the umpire.
Senator Hume, please resume your seat. Senator Carr, I've already asked you if you can please, if you're going to interject, do it more quietly, because I cannot from the chair hear Senator Hume and what she's saying. Senator Hume.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. So many Labor members embroiled in this deception, caught cheating, but where does the buck stop? It stops with Premier Daniel Andrews. It is entirely implausible that he was unaware that using taxpayer funds to campaign was immoral, illegal and unethical. When this rort was first discovered in 2015, Daniel Andrews denied there was any wrongdoing. He said no rules that were broken. Well, he was wrong. Then he said that there may well have been rules broken, but that other parties did it too. Well, the Ombudsman said no, that wasn't the case. No other parties did this, only the Labor Party. When the rort was referred to the Ombudsman, Daniel Andrews attempted to block the investigation. More than $1 million was spent. $1 million spent to thwart the Ombudsman's investigation, but the highest court of the land said that there was reasonable cause. When the report came out, Daniel Andrews said, whoops, sorry, and he even returned the $388,000 stolen from the public purse. But he said, that's it. No more to see here. There should be no minister or no member that faces any further consequences for their action. The most important thing, he said, was that he was sincere in his apology. Well, how woefully inadequate. Imagine if this was any other workplace. If you steal from your employer, you get sacked. You get sacked. How can Daniel Andrews believe the rule of law?
Senator Hume, if you could resume your seat. You have a point of order.
Madam Acting Deputy President, I'd ask you to reflect on the language used by Senator Hume in relation to Mr Andrews, who incidentally she may call by her correct title. The standing orders prohibit reflection on imputation.
Standing order 193, not 190. Thank you.
3.3.
No, thank you. Senator Hume, I would remind you that serving members of other state and territory parliaments are protected people, and they're not to be cast aspersions on as themselves. So if you could just keep that standing order in mind.
Thank you.
By the correct title.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I will do so. So how can Premier Andrews believe that the rule of law, the most fundamental of ethics, the most basic tenet of civic duty, heavens, the 8th of the 10 commandments, don't apply to him and don't apply to his government? You cannot take money, taxpayer money, from your constituents and undermine the democratic process. At the very heart of the cricket scandal is victory at all costs mentality and a corruption of the spirit of the game. The Victorian Labor Party is no different. This scandal is a misappropriation of taxpayer funds and corruption of the democratic process of the highest order. But Victorian Labor are worse, because unlike the Australian cricket team, Daniel Andrews actually won. He got away with it. He got away with it. Victory at all costs. These are the people who are governing Victoria. They have no morals, they have no principles, they have no remorse, and they have no shame. No shame. You have been caught ball tampering. You have been caught ball tampering.
Sorry, Senator Hume, please resume your seat. Senator Carr, I've already said twice now that I cannot hear Senator Hume and what she's saying, and that's the third time you are being so disorderly and so loud that I'm sure others in this chamber can also not hear Senator Hume while she's speaking, and she has got the right to be heard in silence. Senator Hume.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. Premier Andrews has been caught ball tampering. Premier Andrews, I have a message for you. You and your corrupt cronies are a national disgrace. My state of Victoria deserves better. It's time to step up. It's time to be a man. It's time to resign.
Senator Hume, please resume your seat. Senator McAllister.
Again,
you have a point of order?
It is a point of order. Again, Senator Hume's language is reflecting on imputations of improper motives on a member of the Victorian Parliament, Mr Andrews, and I'd ask that she withdraw her remarks.
Thank you, Senator McAllister. I will take the point of order. Under Standing Order 193.3, it is inappropriate to not only refer to them by their correct title, but also to impugn improper motives to currently serving members of other parliaments.
Acting Deputy President, before the time kicks on, I just need to know which word I need to withdraw.
Senator McAllister. The clerk has just pointed out that corrupt cronies. I think that was that the expression you were. Yes.
Thank you, Acting Deputy.
Thank you. And I would just remind Senator Hume and all other senators of Standing Order 193 and its requirements. Thank you, Senator Hume.
Thank you. If you won't go, Premier Andrews, don't worry. Come November, the Victorian people will happily show you the door.
Authorised by Senator Jane Hume, Liberal Party of Australia, Richmond, Victoria.